Think Forward. Think Research Channel.
Wow. Y'all don't play. How's everybody doing today? All right, I'm Dr. Davis, and I got to get right down to business. Where's Oprah? I heard we have some people from Chicago. Where's Chicago at? Chicago. Did you bring Oprah with you? No? Nothing? That's okay. As you all are aware, I do have a big crush on Oprah. She touched my knee. I haven't been right ever since. So I'm waiting for the day. Honestly, we're working on more projects, and the only reason why I'm doing it is to see if we can get back on Oprah. So continue to support us. Let me, first of all, thank everyone for coming out. We love coming to Michigan. This is actually our third time here. Every time we come, the crowd and the audience gets larger and larger, and we appreciate all your support, and we appreciate all the love you give us. Quite honestly, it keeps us going, because we have a lot of hats that we wear outside of practicing emergency medicine full-time, running a foundation, writing books, running another organization, traveling the country and speaking. We have to sleep sometime, so it does our heart good when we come and we feel the support and the love, because it sends a message to us that our tone of what we're saying and our voices are needed, and that we need more of them, need more of them to be out there across the country and traveling. And what is the big situation, or what is the big deal with the three doctors? Why is it such a big deal? And I think about it often, and I try to play around with the thought process of what makes everyone sort of excited about our story, because all I thought we were three black boys going to school who made it through college and medical school. But it is a big deal, because we made the impossible possible. We made the impossible possible, and let me tell you how. We grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and Newark is similar to any inner city across the country. We came from a lot of less than, and we had a lot of lack of positive role models in our communities. I didn't see doctors or lawyers or architects or teachers, for that matter, walking my block. I was used to seeing car thieves, people toting guns. I mean, when I was 10 years old, forget about learning how to use a stethoscope, I was taught how to steal a car. At 12 years old, I was taught how to package drugs instead of learning the anatomy and physiology. So when I'm growing up underneath those circumstances, for a young mind to imagine becoming a doctor, that's impossible. It's totally impossible. So I went through my trials and tribulations, and all along the way, what kept me going? And what kept me going is why this day is so important to me, because I had a dream. I had a dream that I could become something different. Although my community didn't support me, or I didn't see it in my streets, I said, you know what? If it's not here, I got to go find it and bring it back here. I got to go see where it is outside in this country or outside of this city, and find it and bring it back here. See, sometimes you got to step outside the box, And growing up in Newark, I didn't get an opportunity to travel. I mean, we grew up in a situation where none of us had fathers in our home. I was on welfare, so you can imagine trying to stretch $400 among 6 children. You only go but so far. So traveling to the east side of Newark, I thought I was in Hawaii. If I went to the south side of Newark, I was in California. And if I came to the north side, I was in Ann Arbor. So you can imagine how my visions were shaped. I thought all the country, or all cities across the country, was similar to Newark. It wasn't until I started to get older and realized that, along the way, that my dreams wasn't going to happen unless I started to put some action into it. See, we have to move from being reactive to being active. We can't remain passive. We can't say, man, that's a shame what happened to Shelly's grandson. That boy should have got some help a long time ago. Well, if you know that boy should have got some help a long time ago, you should have been there giving that boy some help a long time ago. So for me, it took, I went through a lot of growing pains. I'll be honest with you, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of demons I had to tackle. As a juvenile, I was arrested for shoplifting. I was arrested for robbery. And that's the second time that I was arrested was my wake-up call, because I realized when the judge or the prosecutor said to me that they were talking about giving me 10 years in jail. At 17 years old, 10 years in jail? And I thought 27 was old. I said, man, I'm gonna be old, I'm gonna have a cane, I'm gonna be barely able to walk, and you're talking about giving me 10 years? So during that summer between my junior year and my senior year, I grabbed myself by my bootstraps and I picked myself up. I said, nobody's gonna help me until I start to help myself. Until I start to help myself. And with that thought in mind, and with that vision, or with that thought, I should say, I developed tunnel vision. And when I came back home, it came at me. People from all walks of life started saying, oh man, come on, let's go do this, because I had earned my stripes in the hood. If you do something bad, you get your stripes. It's almost congratulating. It's like, I should say, you get a badge of honor or something of that nature, in which you come home and it's a big party. And Dr. Hunt often says, like, they throw a bigger party for you in the hood when you come home from jail, but if you graduate from college, it's like nothing happens, So I came home, he was like, oh man, you did it big, you the man, And I managed to plead down to a 2-year probation sentence. So when I came home, it was during the summer months that I spent the time in the juvenile facility. But when I came home, I started my senior year of high school, I got along with these two guys. And we always were in high school together, we were in the same classes. Dr. Jenkins and I graduated 4 times together, okay? So that's, as he said, that's a lot of caps and gowns. I hope I'm not taking your speech, man. I was supposed to just give an overview, and now here I am just running rampant. And Dr. Hunt and us graduated 3 times together. So right away, I felt a special chemistry with the 3 of us, because for some reason it wasn't a situation where I had to prove myself to these guys. We all knew we were going through bad situations. We all knew we didn't have the climate around us that we desired. And we all knew that we had the ability, though, to make a difference. But we had to step out on faith, because we didn't have those magical ingredients in our home. We didn't come from a privileged background. And we had to sort of find it ourselves. We had to develop our own blueprint, if you will, to make it happen. So when I came back that senior year, you best believe I got all A's. All A's. I was focused. And at that time, that's when the first thought of college came to mind, my senior year. And ironically enough, an opportunity presented itself. And they say things that, they say sometimes things doesn't happen by chance. And I really believe that, because an opportunity from Seton Hall University, where a representative came to our school and she spoke about careers in health and science. Now, I never thought about becoming a doctor. Only way that I've ended up in that auditorium listening to her is because we were cutting class. That's how it all started. It was second period, sociology, substitute teacher, everything you need to cut class, right? So we all raised our hands and came up with different excuses to leave the class, and we met in the bathroom. And boys at that age, they always want to go to the gym to play basketball, because you have to impress the young ladies with your crossovers and your layups and everything. So you got to make sure you're in basketball tip-top shape, or whatever sport that's popular in your community. So we're heading to the gym, and we already knew the sort of time frame that the security guard had, and we realized he should be at the desk on the other side of the building. But now we have this security guard that was brand new, and he wants to make a difference himself. So he decided that he's going to roam the hallways. And as you know, we hit the first floor, we're walking towards the gym, and then we hear a voice, yo, you 3 young men, come here. So we look and we say, oh man, security. So we started walking fast, pretending as if we don't hear him. He started walking fast, we started walking fast, and before long, we're jogging. All the time he's shouting, you come here, and we're still pretending we don't hear him. So our goal is that we're gonna make it to the gym, to the locker room, go downstairs to the basement to the locker room, make it upstairs and blend in with the other class that's in the gym at the time. So we were almost there, we were about to turn the corner, and boom, guess who steps right in front of us? The principal. Now, he should have been in his office, definitely doing some paperwork. He doesn't have time to be in the hallways. So we were stuck. And out of nowhere, like magic, a door appears, and it happened to be the auditorium. And we dashed into the auditorium, and so happened there was a presentation ongoing about careers in health and science at Seton Hall University in New Jersey. So I immediately scrambled. Dr. Hunt, Dr. Jenkins scrambled. We found seats, and we blended in. I put my head on the table because I never thought about becoming a doctor. Dr. Hunt listened in because he had goals and aspirations of becoming a teacher, but he caught the first word that the presenter said. She said, doctors help people. And teachers do the same thing. They help people. So he listened in, and the fact that they said that they had an opportunity for minorities to go for free, that didn't hurt either. So he definitely tuned in, because as I told you, $400 a month doesn't go that far. So Dr. Jenkins really tuned in because when he was 10 and 11 years old, he had braces put on his teeth. And at that time, the dental residents took 5 minutes of his time just quizzing him on the different teeth in his mouth, the molars, the premolars, the canines, and all the different teeth structures. So when he came back for his follow-up visit, he said, George, which tooth is number 8? That tooth is called a central incisor, right? He said, yeah, which one is tooth number 22? Name the different components of the teeth. So he sparked a curiosity in George. So he listened in, and he tuned in, and he really listened to the presenter. So at the end of it all, they woke me up, and I'm stretching and everything. And they said, man, you missed that presentation. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. What are they talking about? And like, they were talking about becoming doctors. We're going to become doctors and dentists. I'm like, cool, let's do that. Let's become doctors and dentists. So I said, how long is that? Is that a year? Is that 2 years? They said 8 years. I was like, oh, man, 8 years. You mean you guys are talking about going to school 8 years? You know how hard I'm trying to get out of high school? And you want to go back for 8 more years? I'm like, now you're doing this voluntarily, right? They said, yeah, we're going to sign up. So I said, why not? Why not? I had fought off some situations before, and I thought it was cool because no one in my neighborhood ever went to college, yet alone medical school. So we started off, and we went for an interview, and we were accepted into Seton Hall University. And from day one, I felt like I discovered, like I was a leprechaun, I discovered a treasure of gold. For those that's not in college, you get your own air conditioner, you get a meal plan, you get to come in any time of night you want to, your own room, your own phone. Well, back then your own phone was popular, now they have cell phones, but you get your own phone, and and you get to just kind of live a free life. So when I got there, I was like, man, you mean to tell me this has been going on for years? This is nothing new here, huh? And I was quite surprised. So I was sitting there, I pulled one of the counselors, like, what do I got to do to stay here? And they say, you just got to, continue to get good grades. I'm like, no problem. So, but they didn't tell me that after 4 years, if you continue to get good grades, they'd kick you out. So I wanted to stay at 50. I wanted to be those super duper seniors, those 6-year plans, because I had a blast in college. So for my young ones in the audience, if nothing else in life, education is a passport to your future, all right? Whatever you do. Whatever you do, make sure you get your education. Think of it as going from the 9th grade to the 10th grade, and from the 12th grade, you go to the 13th grade. That's the way you look at it, and you continue on. If college is not the end of it all, you want to go further, you go further. Don't put it off. Because I tell you right now, going to become a doctor was the best decision I ever made in my life. The best decision. And I urge each and every one of you to follow your dreams and follow your desires. And that's what Martin Luther King Jr. mentioned, Dr. King, in his speech. It's about your dreams. Because if you don't follow your dreams, if you don't achieve your dreams, then you got to live with the fact that you never made it happen. You only get one life. And I'm willing to die for something that I believe in. Because at the end of the day, when I meet my maker and I'm in front, I want to stand up proud and say I believed in helping others, and I stand right in front of you, and I want to make a difference, and that's what I died for. So make sure whatever you go for in life that you make it happen. I don't care if you're too old, you're too tired, you're too sick, you're too this. We could come up with 1,000 excuses why we can't do it. Just let's make it happen and continue to make it happen. So just to show you how the impossible became the possible, out of 135 college students that had biology major signed on their transcript as their initial choice of major, only 35 went on to graduate, and we were 3 of them. Okay? 8 went on to get MDs, PhDs, and DMDs, dental degrees. And we were 3 of the 8. So, you're talking about making the impossible possible, man, we were blowing them away. We were blowing them away. And I sat back once again and you reminisce often and like, well, what was the magic ingredient? And the magic ingredient was the power of our friendship. We had all that we needed in each other. So what? We didn't have this and we didn't have that and we didn't have the finances and we didn't have the academic scores initially. So what? We had each other. And that's all we needed. That's all we needed to make it happen. I mean, we were creative. Don't get me wrong. We was in, this is ironic that we speaking at the business and finance department because we were in the bursar every semester asking Mr. McGrovern to let us go on a loan payment so that we can register for the next semester. And he said, well, how much you guys can afford a month? You know, $1,000, $2,000? Well, I think I could afford $25 a month. And he said, don't tell no one. And he told each one of us to say, don't tell anybody. I want to let this out. Not realizing that we all were friends right here. So we went on to medical school, and you know, I told a doctor at the time I was going to medical school, and he patted me on my shoulder. He said, young man, better you than me. And I was like, man, that's kind of harsh. Then I got to medical school, and I went through the amount of work that you had to accumulate in medical school. I went through that process, and man, I know what he meant. Boy, it was a lot of work. And that was a time for me, especially, that I wanted to quit. And I fell down. I kept getting back up. When I got weak, these 2 guys, they lifted me back up. And we did that same sort of maneuver for each one of us in our friendship. So along the way, it was one day particularly, I was thinking about quitting. And I was in a microbiology class, and they were talking about the agar, the streptococcus, and the petri dish and the bacteria. I was like, man, what the heck are they talking about? So one of the other students told me, all he's talking about doing is planting out the bacteria to see if it grows tomorrow. I'm like, well, why didn't he just say that? It's very simple, just say that. So I'm in the elevator, holding my head down, and I'm listening to these 2 doctors talk. A urologist talking to a neurologist, or in layman terms, a plumber talking to a brainiac. And they're talking about, the urologist said, I spent the weekend showing my 6-year-old niece how to use a stethoscope, how to use an otoscope and an ophthalmoscope, and these are all instruments to look in your eyes, your ears, and listen to your heart and your lungs. And I said, that's it. See, at 6 years old, his niece is already learning how to become a doctor. At 6 years old. At 6 years old, I told you what I was learning already. I couldn't put on an application on how to steal cars, and you know, that, not too many people were looking for that in your CV. So I said to myself, that's the magic ingredient. And that's what we have to do as a society. Adults sitting in this audience today, you have to reach back. You have to step outside your box. For those who've made it, you have to step outside your box and help someone that's in a position that needs to be guided along. You don't have to necessarily be there every step of the way. All you have to do is serve as that catalyst. The same that the dentist did for George. Only 5 minutes of his time. He didn't do anything extraordinary. He just took 5 minutes of his time to make a difference in his life. So make sure, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to simple humanity. I don't care what type of job you got, what type of car you drive, what home you live in. Well, the homes is nice to live in, they're nice. But I mean, I don't care what you have, but it all comes back to humanity. Simplicity, that's really it. Everything that you needed to learn, they say you learned it in kindergarten. And it's true. Just lending a hand towards someone else, helping somebody else along. So I went on, and I didn't give up that day. Obviously, I wouldn't be here if I did. But I went on, and I finished up med school. I came back, and I did my residency in emergency medicine, the same hospital that I was born. And that was a unique privilege in itself, to be back home in the same community, taking care of people that I grew up with, their grandmothers, their kids, cousins, nieces, you name it. I mean, it's more than medical healing, it's spiritual healing at that point, to see those people and connect with them. And I went on, and we wrote 2 New York Times best-selling books. We started a foundation. We have another book that's coming out focusing on Father's Day. We have a documentary that will be out this year as well. And when I ran into that doctor again, I said, you're right, Doc. Better me than you. Take care.
Thank you guys for having us. It's very, very interesting for me. I was in the back listening to Dr. King's speech, and I was like, okay, that's a little intimidating to come after that. And then Dr. Davis just made it even worse for me. But thank you guys for having us. It's really a pleasure. I mean, I was in the back sort of moved at how many people are here, and it's really our pleasure to do this sort of thing, to come back and share our story and our message in an effort to try to help folks, especially the youngsters, because it's so important for us to reach back, because we were missing so many things when we were growing up. And a lot of messages that we were getting in our inner city just wasn't good messages. I mean, there were so many people telling us college was hard that it almost made us believe that it was impossible. And then we all had to kind of get together and think that they were like, yeah, I'm getting that same message in my neighborhood. And we were like, okay, so how many of those guys went to college? And we realized that not any of them had gone to college. So we were like, okay, we can't listen to those guys. So we just kind of stepped out there on faith and just believed that it can happen for us, despite all of the messages that we were getting and the obstacles that we were facing, because all of us knew that folks in our neighborhood, and we were lucky to have teachers that really leaned on us and let us know that education was the best way to improve our quality of life. And that's what we like to pass on to these young people, because, you know, videos and television does a number on them. And it really has them thinking that these material things, that's what life is all about, and the diamonds and the $300,000 cars, and no one really talks to them about the work or the statistics of how many folks that try actually do that. And a lot of our young people aren't even having plan Bs. They don't even have plan Bs. They're thinking about these sort of things and trying to pursue them, and when they fall flat, they have nothing left for them. So we want to help them understand the statistics and help them understand that the surest way to improve your quality of life is using those books. And it's going to take a level of faith as well, because we didn't have a dime to go to school. And although what got us interested in Seton Hall was that offer of free tuition, someone mismanaged the funds right before we got there, so that didn't come to fruition. So, but we still took that on the chin, because whatever it took to get us focused and to get us there and excited about moving forward and pursuing our futures, that's what we did. And we bonded together to make that happen. But a lot of times folks often ask me, especially when we go out to talk to young people, they're like, okay, so those guys are physicians. What made you want to go into dentistry? And you like looking at people's mouths and saliva and all of that stuff? And I'm like, you know, I didn't think about it that much as I approached it, as far as the things that I might not have liked. I was just excited. As Dr. Davis was saying, that resident really took an interest in me, and I don't know how, what he saw, what questions I asked, but he really took an interest in me. But prior to that, I wouldn't have even been able to recognize dentistry as a profession as something that I can do if I wasn't lucky enough to have the third grade teacher that I had, Miss Johnson, who she was a blessing for me. I mean, coming up in an inner city where excellence isn't really lauded. It's not like you get pats on the back for telling your friends that, hey, I'm on the honor roll. That was the very last thing you wanted to tell anyone in my neighborhood. So it's tough in that environment when no one is really excited about education, and you are, and you know, you're getting ridiculed if you try to share that. So my third grade teacher really, she helped me to see the importance in education, and also to think outside of the box, because just as Dr. Davis said again, you really start to think that what you see in your neighborhood is all that's left for you to pursue. You'll see the drug dealers, you'll see the postman, you'll see the fireman, you'll see your teacher, but that's about it. You know, the things that really, the professions that make the neighborhood tick, that's really about it. And all the other possibilities you aren't really exposed to, or what the world has to offer you. You really don't even really know what to go for, because you don't really see it. But my third grade teacher, she was a blessing, because she would introduce the class to various things that it took time for me to realize what she was doing, but she was setting me up, I think. And I appreciate what she was doing. She would really help her students have a healthy respect for the art. She would take us to Manhattan, and we would go to Broadway plays, and then we would come back and perform them. Then she would get Shakespeare for kids, and we would read Shakespeare poems, and we just felt good that we were reading Shakespeare, although they dumbed it down for us so that we could understand what they were talking about. But she had us doing little algebra problems in the third grade, and she would travel a lot, and when she would come back from traveling, she would take this globe and have us look at this globe, and she would point to us to where she was, and then she would talk to us about the demographic information, the economics, the weather, and just help us to understand what was going on in a different part of the world. So gradually she was knocking those barriers down and making the world ours, as opposed to just the box of the confinement of our inner city. So I appreciated what she was doing. She even had me in ballet class. Didn't last very long, I must say. This is a funny story. She introduced us. That was her next art that she was trying to get us into. And I'm all with her because everything else was so exciting. So I'm like, okay, no problem. My mind's wide open, even in the 3rd grade, no problem. So I got there, and we're doing these little exercises and whatever that they have us doing that starts you off. And this has to be their tactic for boys, because we get to wear our little shorts and everything was all right. So I was doing that for 2 weeks, and once we got there, they fitted everyone, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. I'm still wearing my shorts for 2 weeks. Then they delivered those tights. That was my introduction and exit to ballet. But I totally appreciated what she was doing for me, and it kind of gave, and some of the other messages that she helped draw at that early age, and I try to incorporate this in a lot of the things that I'm doing at the University of Medicine and Dentistry at New Jersey Dental School. I'm working to try to get a number of underrepresented minority students into the profession so that we can try to reduce some of these health disparities. But I have to start very early, and sometimes I'm thinking about when should I start in this pipeline to try to have the most impact. And I go back to thinking about how much of an impact she had on me at that very age, because she gave me tools to help fend off a lot of the things that I was going to encounter as I was going into school. So she let me know, if you have issues with getting into trouble, that's going to make it difficult for you to get where we talked about earlier, which was college and having a bright future and having economic freedom. So you have to do your best. So it was easy for me because she got to me in the 3rd grade. So when folks would come up and offer things that may not have been conducive to me pursuing my dreams, I knew how to tell them no, because something that she said just gave me the confidence to say no and just deal with whatever the repercussions were. She had us walking around almost like little sophisticated little kids, that was in the inner city looking around like, okay, I know for a fact, because of these lessons, I know everything that's around me is temporary. It's not my fault. I was born here. I just have to figure out a way to fight my way out of it. And she gave me a lot of those tools. And I try to incorporate some of those into the things that we do today and pass these messages on to these young people and help them understand their possibilities, because, there's good and bad in every neighborhood. And in every neighborhood that you can think of, there's good and bad that comes from those neighborhoods. But in our neighborhoods, we were kind of left with a disproportionate amount of the bad, because the folks who made it they moved out and didn't necessarily make themselves available to us, so that we were the young kids looking up, like trying to figure out what we can become. And it wasn't as many sort of balances for that, because we were left with mostly bad. So you start to kind of internalize that, thinking that you're mostly bad and you don't have anything to offer, and the world doesn't have anything to offer you. And once that seeps in, it's tough to really fight that off and really think that, or even recognize opportunities. Because, like I said, well, my 3rd grade teacher worked me up so much that when I was in those dental experiences, I was able to see that as an opportunity and see that as something I can possibly do, because she had already, quote unquote, sort of brainwashed me, so to speak, so that I couldn't even see anything else outside of pursuing whatever it is that I wanted to pursue. And using that sort of premise, it helped me to recognize that dentistry was a profession. But that still was only half of what we needed. And I know that what I needed, I wouldn't be up here today if it wasn't for the friendship of my partners. It went deeper than you can even imagine, and it still is propelling us to this day. I mean, I'm so glad that we found each other, and we were able to create a space where we can talk to each other about things that most guys may think that's not so macho. We want to walk around like we have it all together and we're macho, and I think that denies men an opportunity for growth. Because I was able to talk to them about my flaws and the things that I wasn't necessarily good at, that allowed a teaching moment, because one of those guys, they were an expert at whatever that was. So I was able to incorporate some of those personality traits in myself. Over those sort of small little incidents over time, we were pulling from each other, not only trying to push each other as far as grades, because I needed that too, especially me. I mean, I needed to see positive influences on me. If I thought I was going to go party and I thought I studied enough, because, I mean, the books kind of play tricks on your mind at times when you look at them long enough. So, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that I'm done, and then I kind of, somehow, again, that trick on my mind got played and I'm thinking I'm done. So I grabbed my coat and I started heading to the door, and we lived in an apartment together. And I would see these guys at their desk, like studying so hard as if they didn't study at all, and I'm sitting there thinking that I'm done. So a direct message is like, you can't possibly be done. So I would go back, I would throw my coat down and just hit those books again. And that was, I think, stamina. I learned stamina from them as well, because I'm getting tired and I'm thinking, okay, it's done. But having that influence and having folks to bounce things off of helps you to kind of gauge yourself and to really focus where you need to be. Because without that, I probably would have gone to party and probably would have gotten a C instead of a B+ or an A on that particular exam. But you need to surround yourself with positive folks. But we pushed each other as far as academics. We learned how to be men from each other, and that was very important, because all of us come from single-parent homes, and we were nervous about that and not really sure about what it was going to take. We were unsure about the whole process, but we figured it out together, because all of us, even though we had classes together, some classes we didn't have together. We were kind of going out when we were at Seton Hall. We had the room together, but we all seemed to go out into the world separately and deal with the rigors of schools almost separately until we came home and studied together. But when we also came home, each one of us may have learned a different lesson that day about life, about school, about something that we share with each other. So I didn't have to be where they were to experience and to learn from the things that they learned as well. So that sort of positive peer pressure unit, we pushed each other to do well in school. Just like sometimes in the negative sense, you'll see young people pushing each other to do negative things and patting them on the back if they beat someone up, and if they do well in school, they're the ones that they want to attack, those particular guys. But I found in these guys, if I told them I got an A, they were proud of me. And if they got a B or B+, they were asking me how I did it, and I was sharing it, and it was vice versa. So we kind of flipped a lot of the negative things that was going on in our environment to the positive, and that pushed us so far forward that we want to share that. And it's passionate. We're extremely passionate about trying to get out there and talk to kids, because we went through it coming up. I mean, we all had issues and hardships, and it was all an evolutionary process. When we started in high school, we were definitely rough, what do they say? Rough behind the edges or something like that. We were definitely rough coming up, and we had to learn how to study. We had to learn how to manage our time. We had to learn how to take exams. We had to learn how to note take and all of these sort of things over time. And then, if I wasn't so good at math when I first started. So once I got into school, I started at the ground level and just built my way up and just evolved. And that evolution kind of helped. We all knew that where we were then was a snapshot. And if I would have reveled in that and thinking that was going to be me for the rest of my life, I would have been stuck there. But we were just willing and open to just grow and just pull the pieces that we didn't have inside of us and try to make us who we knew that we can possibly become. And it worked, shockingly to us. Because even when we were in it, we weren't sure, as the whole time we were doing it, we weren't sure if we were going to actually finish together. I mean, and we didn't really express that, but I know all of us had reservations, because when we graduated, we were like looking at each other like, wow, this is actually happening, And it was amazing to a lot of other folks, because we started the same day and finished exactly the same day. Although we went to medical and dental school, the University of Medicine and Dentistry has the same graduation ceremony. So it was so weird. I was like, okay, I won't be graduating with those guys again. And I looked at the program like a few weeks ahead of graduation, and saw that we were going to walk across the stage again together. That was literally 4 times. 8th grade with Sam, 12th grade, college, and then medical and dental school. So it was a long road together. But again, it goes back nowadays to young people, because I was looking at the theme and it was talking about respect, and we definitely respected each other. We respected education and what it could potentially do for us, especially us. Sam thought he was good in baseball, but I don't know if any of us thought that we would be able to do anything outside of books. That was our talent, being able to take in information, give it back, and process it and just use information. That was our talent, so we maximized our talent. But we want to help these young people. That's kind of what we're doing today. is collaborating. Again, we collaborated on, that's another thing I wanted to talk about, but we collaborated together with life and school and to push ourselves, but we wanted to collaborate even further. I think we were just so used to it. We were looking like, okay, so we graduated, okay, what now? And then it just automatically, the focus shifted to the young people. We were like, look, every day that we don't get out here and share these messages with young people, that's one more young person that's lost that we know can do it. I mean, a whole classroom of 30 kids, we know all of them can go to college and be successful. If all of them, learns who they are and what their study habits are and what they're deficient in, and they compensate for that, every single one of them can make it. And we have to push them that way because we were sitting in our classes, although it's like each one of us in our respective not undergraduate, it's so many levels of school, I'm getting boggled up. But in our elementary school, every person that was sitting next to us on either side could have made it, but they had different challenges than we had. I know that although I say that I came from a single parent home, it felt like a complete home because a lot of my friends didn't have either parent at all. And they're 14 years old having to raise a 9-year-old, but they have to focus on school. And then we judge them thinking that, okay, they have a record at 18, but we don't know what they were dealing with at 14 years old. And we have to kind of take that into consideration and try to help out because I know every one of them could have made it. They didn't hear the messages that my third grade teacher had, as well as, again, as I alluded to, they were dealing with other issues and had to make a whole lot more difficult choices than we had to make, which allowed us to be here. So because of that, and we know that. We know that those kids could have made it that are our age now. So we want to transfer that information back to the next generation. Okay, so let's try to come up with strategies because we know their issues. Let's try to talk to them even and let them know what they're going to deal with. Give them the information and help them fight off a lot of these things that are going to come their way. Because it's important for us to help them understand, again, and I'm going to echo it again, especially to you young people that are in the audience. And just an aside, thank you guys for coming from Chicago because we know that that's a long drive. And we really felt good when we were in the back and we heard about you guys. But I'm talking to you that every single A that you guys get in school is going to equate to financial stability. And every F that you get is going to equate to financial instability. So as you're studying and as you have a book report due on Friday, you have to meet that expectation if you want to have a financially sound future. You have to draw the correlation between your actions now and what you do with those books now and your future. If you want to have a home, if you want to have to be able to travel, if you want to be able to be a resource to your family and your community, you're going to have to use these books, even if you are LeBron James, because you don't want to let someone else decide how much money you get because you can't necessarily read your contract the way you need to. And ask the necessary, or even confident enough to ask the necessary questions that you need to ask. And we want them to get these messages in a hurry because we know that they can do it. I mean, it's not as many, especially in my line of work with what I'm trying to do now, it's not as many African-American youngsters in dental school as much as I'd like. And sometimes we're trying to figure that out, as well, in college even. And I know for a fact that we're not genetically predisposed to failure. I know that for a fact. So it has to be something else. It has to be something else. And we're hoping that us doing our part and getting out here and trying to share these things would hopefully have an impact because we were looking for these messages and we had to find them out the hard way, but we found them out. But we want to make it not so hard. We want to just package it as best we can, give it to you as early as we can so that it can serve you sooner, so that can ensure that we get more of these young people across these graduation lines. And that's our goal, and that's what we work tirelessly on, whether it's at home at 1 o'clock answering emails on our website or going out. And I mean, we literally have to go to work tomorrow. So it's like we're out here and we're trying to do these things, and it's really important to us. But what gives us the strength to do it is audiences like this. I mean, I'm blown away because I keep looking around because I'm in awe that there's so many people here, and it makes us feel good, and it helps us to understand that our work is well worth it and it's appreciated, and that's all the reward that we need. And we thank you guys for giving that to us today, and I'm going to save some time for Dr. Hunt. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's tough going last, let me tell you. See, because you guys have been sitting through two guys, great speeches, but you've been sitting for a while, your butt kind of tired, you got to shake it out a little bit. And then, he takes a couple of my, words, and then he takes the rest, so I'm left with nothing. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, what am I gonna say? And it's tough, but really what I wanna say is, as I was sitting back there listening to the speech, the I Have a Dream speech, I thought about that in and of itself, a dream. And that's how it started with us. It was a mere dream. We had no idea how we were gonna get to this point. I mean, after we left and it was the library, not the auditorium, buddy. And after we left the library, we said, let's do it, and that was that. I didn't know how I was gonna do it. Hadn't even thought that far, and it probably was a good thing because then I would have realized how daunting it was and maybe I would have got scared. So, God works in mysterious ways, so maybe it was a good thing we just decided to jump into it. But it was important that we started with that dream. And, a lot of times I look at a lot of my growing up, like so what happened to my friends? Because I do want to say for the record that we are not exceptions. Because if you say that we're exceptions, then you mean that what's supposed to happen is what's happening in my communities, and that's not what's supposed to happen. It's not right. We are not exceptions, and we don't, I understand we might have beat the statistics from Newark, but we're not exceptions because we weren't much different than most of the other people in our community. All of my friends, they were smart. When we were kids all growing up doing this exact same thing, but something happened along the way. A lot of times I look at, what goes on in our communities, and I sit back and think, and I only can liken it to, I used to watch cartoons a lot, so forgive me. But when I was little, I used to watch the Super Friends. And they had the Kingdom Hall, and that was like the meeting spot. Like everybody would fly back to the Kingdom Hall, and you had the Wonder Twins, you had Superman, you had Wonder Woman, you had them all, Aquaman, and it was just, you had everybody. But then you also had the Kingdom of Doom, which was like, and they call it the alternate universe. And so in the Kingdom of Doom, you had the reverse of everybody, and then the evil of everybody, and just everything was just opposite in the reverse. And a lot of times when I look at what's going on, like where I grew up, I'm like, this is the alternate universe, because everything that's good is bad, and everything that's bad is good. And it irks me sometimes, and I figure I gotta do something to figure that out, because why is it bad that you get good grades? And why is it good that you get bad grades? And why is it okay to, celebrate to have a party when you get out of jail, and nobody gave me a party when I got out of college? Why? So why are these things happening? Why is it that? So then I'm an internist, so I always ask the question, why? I go to sleep asking why. So it's like, well, why is that? Why does that happen? And so then you have to think well, it didn't always turn out that way, as I mentioned in the beginning, because I remember my friends, and when we were in first and second grade, and the teacher would ask what we wanted to be when we would get older, everybody's hand went up. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be like a teacher, a lawyer. I wanted to be like 5 things, and thought I could do all 5 things. See, I had that dream. I thought I could do it, and so did all my other friends. So then what happened, throughout that time? At some point, something happened that my dream became a reality and theirs didn't. Because we all had a dream. We all had a dream. And at some point, their dream didn't become a reality. If anything, it became that nightmare, that alternate universe that I was telling you about. So their dream didn't turn into a dream. It turned into a nightmare. And so the question is, why? Why did that happen? And I sit and I think, and I say, well, I know when I was growing up, see, a dream is just that. It's a dream. But you have to have faith. You have to have hope. You have to have that belief to turn that dream into a reality. And what I realized, what was going on in my communities, is that we lost the hope. A lot of our young people lost hope. And we have to bring that hope back into the community. And it might sound simple, but it's really not, because I sit back and say, well, why didn't I lose the hope? And I realized because when I was little, I had all these dreams and sort of, like I said, all my other friends, but then I didn't realize when I was growing up that it was abnormal to have to share a bed with all my cousins. We slept head to foot, head to foot, head to foot, and then somebody pee in the bed, but, you know, it was just terrible, you know. But it was good. We were warm, we were together. So we didn't have any heat in the house, you know, so it was warm, and then we got out of bed in the kitchen, we ran down in the kitchen, turned the oven on, because that's the only place we could get the heat, and we washed up in the pot that we boiled on the stove, and, you know, and that was just what I saw, you know, that's just what it was. Like, I didn't even see anything wrong with that. That's the way people grew up. But see, as you get older, you start to realize that these things are abnormal, and that these things take away some of that hope, and you start to see the realities in your community and what's going on around you. And you start to realize having 6 people in the bed together is not normal, and that you don't have any heat in the house, but you got to go downstairs to wash up before you go to school. That's not normal. It's not normal to see people on the corner selling drugs and people getting shot, and you talking about people as if they made it to 25, like that's their bicentennial. Because you're not expected to make it past that age. And so, of course, you could start to think about how people could lose hope, because they start to see their surroundings in their community and they start to not believe. So those dreams don't turn into reality because they don't believe, they don't have the hope. And those dreams turn into nightmares, because then they start to get involved in these things that are smothering them, that they live in. And I try to like it, and so I was trying to explain it to one of my colleagues, and they said, well, you know, but you know that if you go out there and you do this, you could get shot and killed and go to jail, and why would anybody want to do that? And I was trying to explain to them, nobody wants to do that. That's not, like George said, nobody's predisposed to do that. But it's almost like, think about it. If you're on this battlefield and we're on this side, and the way to get to your dream or your freedom or whatever you want to call it is over there. But there are obstacles in the middle. And those obstacles are men with guns and armor. And all you have are rocks. You don't have anything. And you see people around you getting shot down. And the only people that's surviving are the people that's not trying to go that way in the direction of their dreams. And then you see some brave people try to run, and they run, and they run, and boom, they get shot. And you start seeing all of that, it's gonna, you have that dream to get to the other side. You really want to get there, but you don't have any more hope or faith or belief that you're gonna actually make it to the other side of that battlefield. Look, you see all the despair, the people are getting shot around, and they're getting gunned down around you. You can't imagine or believe or fathom that that's something that you can actually do. So you don't do it. You actually sit and live in that nightmare, because it's much better than getting gunned down. And you already know or believe or feel that you're not going to make it to the other side. But what if there was somebody who actually did make it? What if there was somebody who actually knew how to maneuver through that battlefield and get through and get to the other side? Then that might bring back some hope. Then you might say, well, wow, I might be able to make it on the other side. But if that person's not there to tell you or to help you get there, how can you do it? You would have to do trial and error. And you saw what happened to the next guy that did trial and error. He didn't make it. So that guy's responsibility, his job is to come back and to help you figure out how to try to navigate through this battlefield. And that's kind of what we look at our jobs as, to get back and go back and be that example. See, because now you have examples of people making it through this battlefield, as opposed to just examples of people dying and living in it and not achieving their dreams. And we need more of that. We need a lot of people showing that you can make it over to the other side. We need to be able to, and that's why we get out tirelessly and do what we do, because it's not because we're exceptions, because we know we're not. I'm not an exception. I beat the odds. I made it through that battlefield. But it wasn't because I was an exception, because all of these guys on the line were just like me. But I figured out how to navigate through that battlefield. And I want to come back and let other people know how to make it so that they can get that hope and that belief, so they can have the faith. Because you need that faith. Like, you need to be able to take a step out on faith. Because you might not be sure that if you walk out on that plank, if the plank in front of the plank you're on is stable enough. And the only way you're going to know that is if you take that step and have the faith that that plank is going to support you. And you have to have the faith and the belief, and you won't. It's tough to believe that if you haven't seen it done, if you don't have examples, if you don't have mentors, if you don't have people out there that are helping you and that are showing you the way. And so that's why it's so important for what we do and to try to be that example for people so that you can have so many more people out there making it through that battlefield. And that's really what it's all about. It's all about making it through the battlefield, because at the end of the day, they're just going to be living in that nightmare. And I drive through the nightmare too much and see and visit the nightmare every day. And I don't like it. And so it's important to do whatever I can to get out of there, to get out there and do what I can to make, that dream that Martin Luther King was talking about a reality. And the only way I can do it is I got to put that missing component in it. And that missing component is that belief and that faith, so that I can make that dream a reality. Thank you.
This question is regarding young African Americans, in particular, African American men. The problem with deferred gratification. How did you guys handle that? A lot of times we want it right away. Yeah. We don't want to work for it. And I brought a group of guys over here. Can you talk to them?
That's an interesting question, because that's a point that we talked to. We probably would have covered if we had a sea of young people. That usually always comes up. Because we had to deal with that. I mean, I personally dealt with it in a way, because I had friends who did the wrong thing to get what they wanted, and I just saw how easy it was to take it from them. You know what I mean? Like, when they got a ticket, if their car wasn't necessarily registered properly and they got it the wrong way and they didn't earn it, one ticket can lose that car. And it's like, whatever I earn, I want to keep it. So I have to do it the right way, even if it takes time. And that was kind of my sort of motto. But it's not worth it. I mean, everything comes in time. It comes in due time, and you guys really should focus on your books. And if you do that, everything that your heart's desire will come to you in due time.
Yeah. Let me just say as well that, it's funny, because along the way with that delayed gratification, all of us dealt with that thought process, because we all, back in the day, wanted the fat whip with the 5-star rims. That was what was out back then. And it was funny, because I used to see kids on our blocks all the time with those sort of materialistic items and wanted those same things, just like any child would want. But I think what made a difference, especially right now, I can tell you, all those kids that had that then, they have nothing now. They have nothing now. So the career of education, I stay buying new cars. Like, I don't have a problem. I'm not saying it that way, but I mean, I have that now. You get what I'm saying? So whether it's cars, whether it's houses, whatever materialistic items you want, you can have that. That will still be there for you. So the point of the matter is that delayed gratification, it's real. You have to tell yourself, you have to program yourself, you got to see the bigger picture that will be there as you move forward. But if you cash it in all right now for an opportunity to go out there and do, say theoretically, something illegal to get it, then it's going to be all taken away from you. All opportunities is going to be taken away from you. And then all you're going to have left is that whole ideal of, well, I shouldn't have did that, or that dream of maybe one day it could have happened for me if I didn't cash in on making those mistakes right now.
Just to add to it a little, I mean, that was, let's say if you're 16 years old and you're interested in those sort of things and you want it now. I mean, we delayed our gratification for 10 years because we graduated at 26, and then we were able to have whatever we want for the rest of our lives. And that's what you want to set yourself up for, and that's what the books will do for you.
And you know, I do want to add one extra thing. I don't want you to think that you hold your life because you went to school. Like, we were still living. We still enjoyed stuff. We went to parties. We had fun. We worked hard and we played hard. So you can do both. It's not like you can't live because you're in school. It's not like you're in prison. Because I do have a story where my friend, he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I was going to be a doctor, and he chuckled. He laughed at me. Now, you know, I'm 16 years old. He's 16, so he had no. I mean, at the time, I thought it was kind of funny too. But you know, he laughed, and and I said, well, he asked me how long is that going to be, and I said, well, it's going to be, I'm finishing up high school and 4 years of college. He's like, 4 years of college? I'm like, yeah. He's like, and then I was like, I didn't want to tell him. I was like, 4 more years of medical school, and then he was like, 8 years. And I was like, yeah, so I had to do a residency, so I really ain't telling him about that. So it was just like, he was really, I gotta live my life, da-da-da-da. And he made me feel bad for a while. Then, I went back to these guys and talked to them and realized that, you know what, I'm doing it with them, and I'm enjoying my life. I'm still doing things. I'm maturing, I'm growing, and I always visit home, and I bumped into him, and he was in jail, and guess how long he was in jail for? 8 years. Now, that is a long time when you're in jail. So you got to put it in perspective.
Great. Thank you.
I just want to say I want to thank you for coming here to speak. I have a daughter at Ohio State who is pre-med too, and I have one question. When you come from an inner city schools and then because I went to college, I went to chemistry class, and I was a little bit discouraged going to class first day, and you're in lab, and you don't know what a flask is, you don't know what a Bunsen burner is. I mean, how did you overcome those obstacles coming from inner city schools and then the transition to college?
For me, one way I think all of us handle it, but I know personally I can speak for it, but I was just not embarrassed to find out what I didn't know, which kind of freezes a lot of young people. To give you a story, it's a little further along, but because I come from a single parent home, I didn't know how to shave, how to tie a tie, and I'm in the middle of dental school, still never picked that up. And one of my teachers who, bless him, he wouldn't let me in, any of his students in without a tie. And I'm sitting there like, well, there goes my dental career, over a tie, and then I'm like, you know what? Somebody's gonna show me so I took my tie, took it to school, and I just wasn't embarrassed. That would embarrass a lot of people and freeze them. Things that they don't know, they internalize it and think they're less of a person because they weren't exposed to certain things. And we gotta get over that because you're never gonna open yourself up to get those things you were missing. So I just wasn't embarrassed. And that helped me to get everything that I was missing. And I don't know how to foster that. All I can do is just talk about it freely and hope that allows other people to kind of talk about it freely as well and embrace that so that you can get what you need. So I know I wanted to be complete, and I started off incomplete, but that was, again, just a snapshot. But again, I evolved, and I just opened myself up to new things and just did not let that make me feel so embarrassed that it's going to stop me from doing whatever it is that I wanted to do.
I want to speak to that, too, because it hits home for us three in general, that point. The one thing about the flask, we did have a chemistry class, so we knew it in high school, but when I got to college, even though this was a college preparatory high school, it was no match for the other schools that were in my communities or surrounding communities. And so when I got to college, I wasn't able to compete because I didn't know a lot of basic fundamental things because I didn't learn them in high school. And if it wasn't for a program that we took over the summer, before high school, a 6-week rigorous program. For college, I wouldn't have been able to compete. And that's all I needed, and that's all we really had to go with was a 6-week program. But it taught me fundamentals, sitting in front of the class. As soon as you get out of class, rewrite your notes. Make sure you go to talk to the teachers on their appointment time. Like a lot of little things that I just didn't know. My parents couldn't teach me because they didn't know about college. So a lot of things that I didn't know, I learned in that 6-week program, and it really allowed me to compete with my peers. Because otherwise I would have failed, and maybe that would have discouraged me even more because I would have thought I wasn't good enough. But when I finished that program, I felt prepared and was ready. And I know it's always a hot topic, but it was an affirmative action program in New Jersey that allowed me to be able to compete with my peers. And so it was a blessing, because had I not been a part of that program, now outside of that, we didn't get any other, they're not like you had a test or these kind of things, but it was important for us to get that 6-week summer program, because if we didn't, I don't know what would have happened.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For most black students, and especially our young black boys, this whole idea of street credibility and earning your stripes is really on a daily basis something that they have to combat. What tactics did you all use, and while you were still in your public high school, what did you use to kind of, not necessarily to combat those people, but the idea and the notion of I have to act a certain way, I have to dress a certain way in order to be accepted? How did you persevere through that and basically succeed academically?
I mean, that challenge is definitely there, and you feel it often while going through the process of high school, grammar school, in any inner city, in any community for that matter. I think one is each one of us stood up as an individual, and even with that in ideal, we were still able to hold our individual thoughts, but still be popular amongst the masses. We all played sports, one level or the other, and we all participated in school activities, and that helped to sort of blend. But I think the problem, or the question at hand, is how can we change that? How can we change that so that that won't be an issue? And that's what we're geared at doing. That's what we look to the 4 architects or the 5 astronauts and other professionals out there to do as well, because we have to show, to me, it's a sign that the community may not know. And we have to show them then. So we have to bring them back images of professionals so that they say, well, instead of me acting out in school, instead of me being a bully in school, maybe I should focus on my books because it's hip, and we have to talk in their language. It's hip and it's cool to grow up to become a doctor. See, the reason why the communities are that way is because they're inundated with music and sports and negative images to say, not that all sports and music is negative, but they see constant influences of that in their community, so that's all they aspire to become. And they feel like the way to become it is this passage. So sometimes we don't only have to educate the kids, we have to educate the parents. And we have to show the parents ways, show the parents accountability that they have to be over. Anytime you see a community running amok, that's a reflection on the adults in that community, I believe. And we have to make sure we find a way and situations to put that out, because there's no way in the world, growing up, I used to have to come up with excuses. Oh, I'm not taking my books home. Meanwhile, I had my big jacket, oversized jacket on, and I had my books underneath the jacket, But I couldn't let, my man know that I was going home to do my homework, because that wasn't considered cool. See, we have to destroy that nerd versus cool mentality and bring back the ideal and the conception and the realization of what even Dr. King was talking about 40 years ago. The opportunity to go to school was a big deal 40, 50 years ago. Now we have the opportunity, so we have to make sure that we take full advantage of that, and we have to make education the norm and not the exception.
Hi, I would like to welcome you. And I spent the first 23 years of my life in New Jersey, in Trenton. Okay. And I know Newark, I know the Oranges, I know Camden. Ann Arbor doesn't have mean streets compared to New Jersey. I just want to commend you for what you've done. It's incredible. The negativity that surrounded you, which I'm sure it did, because it did mean I'm a lot older than you are. And I'd also like to give you my complete admiration for staying in New Jersey and trying to build the state back up. You have my gratitude as a Garden Stater from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing, and I really It amazes me. I have a twin sister who head of the methadone clinic, and it's amazing how many of my childhood friends are no longer with us because of drugs, crimes, and all.
Yeah.
And if you haven't lived in New Jersey, you don't know what these guys went through. So
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am a parent with a teenage daughter, and I provide a lot of structure in the home, and I consider myself to be a good role model, and we have a faith base, we have a strong belief in God. But my issue is that my teenager, no one else is doing what we're doing in our home, pretty much the school that she attends in our neighborhood. So that's a struggle for her where she feels like her mother is just old-fashioned. And regardless of what I put in front of her, a lot of inspirational material, a lot of motivational material, we have a lot of structure, we are very routine. It just seems that her mother is old-fashioned, and she seems to be drawn with her peer pressure. She's very popular. She has a beautiful heart, but she tends to stray with the wrong things at school because that's what's happening at school. And good grades and a spirit of excellence is not what's happening at her school. And she tends to go that way. Although she have a beautiful heart and she have a wonderful home, and we do have structure. So what advice can you give to me?
It's tough. I mean, if whoever read our book, I probably was I read the wrong way all the time. So I feel your pain, and I know what she's going through. And peer pressure was tough, and it wasn't until I met these guys that I was able to garner the positive peer pressure that we exuded on each other to do right things, and it felt good, and it felt right. But your peer group is very, very important to you in the workforce, everywhere. It's very important, and that is, arguably the most influential thing that you have to deal with every day. And so it's really tough, but I think that what you need to do is, there's a lot of things. First of all, it's no one magic bullet, but one of the things that I think that's important for parents to do is to learn the culture of their kids. You need to learn what's going on, what they're doing, because they could be doing stuff right under your nose and you wouldn't even know it. Because things are sad. We speak in a different vernacular that you wouldn't even understand. And so it's like you really need to understand it. Like a parent told me that her child was champing a black. That means nothing to most people. But what it meant, when she said it, I knew exactly what she meant. A Black and Mild cigar, they were taking out the filter part in it and then reinserting the tobacco or marijuana or whatever. So she could have said that on the phone to her friend and you wouldn't even know she was using drugs. So it's important to know what they're listening to, and if you fight it, it's tough to just say, oh, that's stupid music or that's stupid this. Then she's just like, I'm not gonna talk to my mother about this because she thinks everything is stupid that I do. So it's important to try to understand it and talk about it and deal with it on those levels. And that's, again, one of the reasons why we did what we did, because we don't think that we're corny or whatever you want to call it. We think that we can relate to kids, and so we want to get out there and relate to them because maybe they might be able to understand where we're coming from, and that's why we shared our lives and our stories in the book so that they can be like, wow, I was feeling this way, I've been through this, and so maybe they can get some inspiration out of it. But I really do think from a parent perspective that you have to learn what's going on in your kids' school and just their culture, what they're doing, the music they listen to, the dances, everything. That's my advice.
Thank you.
But at the same time, I must say, and this is, I agree with what Dr. Hunt said, but you got to always remain a parent first.
Yeah,
and I don't, regardless to what, there's one, we don't have any kids ourselves, but one of my other partners have children. He said, I don't care, as long as I'm paying the bills in this house, there's no closed door policy in here. So, as physicians, we give medicine, and sometimes the medicine doesn't taste good. And but at the end of the day, it heals you. So we have to, sometimes deliver those medications that's not good for them in their minds at the time. But as they grow older, I can't tell you how many times my mother, I thought she was outdated, and now I can't stop thanking her enough for staying on me.
I had to rise, first of all, to thank God for blessing me to get here.
Thank you.
Because when I woke up today, I was so excited to get here. I picked this card up, I think at church, and for the first time, this is my first time being here in the Power Center to a gathering like this. See, I grew up in a home of a single parent that raised 7 daughters and 1 son. And we moved from the south side of Ypsilanti to Ainsworth Circle. She always told everybody she was going to get a house, and they laughed at her. But she put her mind and faith in God that he was going to bless her with that home for her 3 minor children at the time. And everything she stepped out in faith on, she was blessed. And coming here today, thinking about the fact that my mother wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Truly a blessing to have an inspiration like these 3, isn't it?
Yes, I had to stand.
Thank you.
I'll make it short. I had to stand and say thank God for you coming here because, see, I'm in a position of a mentor now. God has blessed me to obtain scholarships in sports, to represent Michigan in Junior Olympics at 15 years old, breaking the women's high jump record at West Junior High. He's helped me to accomplish many things by faith and not giving up and giving down and giving in. And I'm yet a young man right over there with me, D'Angelo. I'm considered his mentor, and he look up to me. And I need prayer because I want to be successful in being a strong mentor for him, just like you are.
That's right.
For many young people all over the world where you speak at. So I thank God for you coming here because you helped make my day.
Thank you.
And you helped give me a push forward.
Thank you.
One of the parts of your talk that also really touched me is it seemed like you really had faith, a little faith in yourself to go forward and do something that you couldn't really see yourself doing necessarily, that everything wasn't certain, but you went for it anyway. And so going with the image that was said about the battlefield and you have your dream and you're moving towards it, what kind of advice do you have to young people who are trying to figure out what direction they want to run? Where is their dream? Where did you look for guidance? You know, did you feel like God worked in your life? Was there something in your heart? Maybe you can talk about medicine in particular. Was there something in your heart that told you your particular career? And then in general, what should young people feel in their hearts before they go that direction and figure out what it is?
You know, I'll speak a little bit on that, but it was never that methodical, to be honest. We just stepped out, and the interesting part about stepping out, I wish I could have at least had the opportunity to elaborate now, but I liken it to, you know, you want to get to point B, and you're standing there on point A, you're kind of frozen on point A.
That's on.
Got
That's
me?
on.
Okay. And you want to get to point B, but you're stuck on point A, and as Dr. Hunt said, you're like trying to, you got it? Okay. One thing that I like to help young people understand about that faith thing is that it's not as scary of a step as you may think it is. It's scary, and I can say that now because looking back, once I took that first step, and so many people saw us helping ourselves from one step, people just rushed to help us move to the next step. And then we were unsure there. And it's like the more you help yourself, the more you expose yourself and you expose your aspirations and people see it, and then you allow them to see something that they can help you with. So that's kind of how it happened. Because we were taking those steps, people just came out of the woodwork that we would never have seen that helped us. And that's what I try to help the young people understand is that, you know, you're not going to be doing it on your own. You're not going to build this house that you have no resources for on your own. You just have to lay the foundation. And then it seems like people will help you with the windows and the plumbing and everything else you need. The world will kind of take care of you if you help yourself and you really chase your dreams and you expose yourself. But to be honest, it wasn't methodical. I just try to get them to take that first step so that they can expose themselves to receive a lot of the help and the necessary necessary guidance and things they may need. But I know I sound like a chopped up record. But I hope you got what I was saying.
I just want to add, for me as well, it took a long time for where I belong or what am I here for, that sort of thought become clarity. Even going through the whole process of college and medical school, I had doubts. And I wasn't for sure because I kept saying to myself, do I really belong here? Should I be here? Should I be doing something else? And I think for most young people, those doubts are relevant to you. I think in college and in high school and in grad school, you're not sure, even after this is over, what you're going to do next. And that plays a thought in your mind. But see, the focus is to deal with it day by day. And it will become more and more clear where you belong, and your purpose of where you're supposed to be will become as clear as the driven snow. And for me, at those times when I wasn't for sure, I came up with a motto, and I use it in the pack. I call it the 3 Ds. Because at times when I got weak, and I was like, well, I want to change my major to business, or I want to switch over to, I don't know, some other major. I use the 3 Ds, which is dedication, determination, and discipline. And with those 3 Ds, you have to stay determined enough to realize that regardless of what, that your mind can play trick on you saying, oh, you need to switch over. No, I got to stay dedicated, and I got to stay determined, and I have to stay disciplined in doing my work. And trust me, you may get a degree in something else, and you wind up working in a different field that has nothing to do with that, but that's fine because you will find your way along the way. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm a recent college graduate, Michigan alum actually, and neither of you spoke about relationships. And Dr. Davis mentioned that you all don't have any children, and I don't see a wedding band. No, but my question is, as a recent college graduate, something that I struggle with personally is wondering, I plan to attend law school in fall of '07, and I'm really afraid to sort of enter into relationships, and I feel like I don't want to resent my spouse or future husband because I didn't achieve my goals. You know what I mean? That's to me, is a total distraction. And I just want to hear your thoughts about, you all have tunnel vision. If you are married or if you're not married, was that a part, how did relationships work while you were in medical school, while you were in grad school, and even today with your success?
Well, this is a rated G talk, so. No, I'm teasing. But for me, and we might all have different thoughts on this, I didn't, if it would have happened, I would have did it. Like, I'm not gonna tell the woman of my dreams, oh, I'll see you when I'm done. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, because for me, that's a very important part of my life. And actually, I was seriously considering getting married in college, and good thing I didn't, but I was seriously thinking about it, and I would have left and been content, like, because it depends on what's important for you in life, and it just so happened that I guess maybe because I was so busy, and I'm not sure why, but it just didn't happen. I think that what I wanted was a lot clearer as I got older, and so I was able to see through all of the whatever, and so it's just a matter of finding it. I knew that she wasn't gonna come knocking on my dorm room, so I needed to be able to go out more, and I don't think I was getting out as much. But I guess what I'm trying to say to you is I wouldn't allow that to stop me from pursuing my goal, nor getting serious with somebody, because you only have one life, live it.
Do you notice how uncomfortable that made us, though? You see him, he's like, But none of us, even to this day, it was important for me to get through school, and that was it. I couldn't even, it seems like, and this may be sort of harsh, but it seems like it was like a 3-month rule. I see someone I like them, and after 3 months, it seemed like they became a dilemma for my books. Okay, they want me to come see them, but I have an exam, and it always went to the exam. You know what I mean? And that kind of discipline and focus, I don't think anyone was able to kind of deal with. And now we're so busy, we can't even slow down long enough to let someone like us. So none of us are married with kids or anything like that. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Good afternoon. I am here with a group of young people, my cousins and some friends, and myself and my good friend, we always want to encourage our young people to stand up and be bold and to, take advantage of every opportunity that comes in front of them. So I came with one of my, this is not my cousin, but one of my friend's cousins, and I want to allow them the opportunity to ask you all a question, because it is important for us to not only say, okay, you can do it, but give them opportunities to actually act on some of their, if they're a little scared or anything like that, they get an opportunity to do these things that we're encouraging them to do. So my young man right here, DJ, has a question for you.
Okay.
Shoot.
Do you all perform operation, surgery?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Do you all perform surgery?
Do we all perform surgery? Wow. When we were in medical school, we all had a rotation in surgery that we had to 8 weeks worth, and we have to go into the operating room, scrub, and stay in there for, sometimes I remember being in a neurosurgical case. I was there for 11 hours, and I thought I was going to pass out. But now, with our specialties, I'm emergency medicine, Dr. Hunt is internal medicine. I only do myself is life-saving surgery. So in the emergency departments, similar to the show ER on television, if you come in with a life-threatening situation and I have to do an emergent procedure that involves a minor surgical procedure, then I move to do that. But we're not trained in the surgery itself, no.
Good question.
Good question, definitely.
I was gonna ask, as you were going through at the younger stage, how did family, and not just between you three, but kind of outer family and stuff, how did they help or push or I didn't really get
Good question.
any of that.
That's a great question.
It's kind of, you mentioned something like not our specific families, but an outer family, but our families collectively was kind of encompassing your question. My family, they supported me. My mother's, I can come up here, but my family was supportive. My mother had 8 brothers and sisters, and they were really supportive of me, but they were also supportive of anything that my partners would have needed, and their family vice versa. So all of our families kind of collectively pushed. You should have seen graduation, because each one of us that came across the stage, they thought we had a cheering section, and we hired some people because all 3 of our families stood up. I mean, an example is Dr. Hunt needed to do a rotation at Howard University Hospital, something like that, and my family, most of my mother's sisters live in the Maryland area, and he had an apartment up here, and he was in a dilemma. Okay, where am I gonna live for a month? He may have needed to get an apartment down there, but my aunt just opened the doors and just let him stay for a month, and it was just no problem. And that wasn't his aunt to do that, that was my family, but she loved all of us, and all of our families kind of had that sort of love, because again, they see us helping ourselves, and when you show people that you're trying to help yourselves, help comes from all walks of life, but especially all 3 of our families really stepped in to pitch in here and there to do little things to make sure that we got to the finish line.
Why did you want to become a doctor, and when did you first meet?
Good question.
Good question.
Well, these 2 guys met in 7th grade, and then I came along in the 9th grade, and I think we all had different reasons for becoming doctors. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to help people, and at the time, all I knew about someone helping people were teachers. And it wasn't until that recruiter came from Seton Hall that I thought about becoming a doctor, because then she started to explain about how doctors help people and the things that they do, and I realized that they make a little bit more money than teachers, and so I was like, well, that might be a good job for me. But not realizing that the word doctor is to teach. I mean, that's what it means, and so that's the essence of what I wanted to do. So it kind of worked out.
I could sort of relate to what y'all went through in the city. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Went through a lot of hard things, and I had to work hard to get into high school, just to go to Leo. So, right now, I'm going through troubles. I was doing good my freshman, sophomore year, and now I'm a senior. Like my junior, senior, I slacked off. I want to know, like, what kind of advice can y'all give me to get back on track?
Yeah, I would say you immediately need to get back on track, because junior year and your senior year is probably the toughest years in high school, because you're part of the in crowd, you're part of what's popular and what's cool. And if education is not the focus by the masses or your peer group, then you tend to go astray wherever they're going. But I think, what kept us together was that positive peer pressure component. We had our friendship, so we stuck together, but we were focused on getting our grades. So you need to find those group of friends that's focused on getting their grades and surround yourself with them, because it's a saying, you show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. So you have to make sure that you're hanging around people that's going in a direction. I mean, there's nothing more sad. The saddest situation, one of the saddest situations I've seen was one of our school classmates during the senior year, and he was crying because he didn't get accepted into any colleges, because he goofed off his junior year and his senior year of high school, and he thought he was going to go on a basketball scholarship to college. So, I mean, right away you need to, surround yourself by like minds that's going in a positive direction. And just by that presence alone, you'll start to feel some of their energy, and you'll start to refocus and redirect yourselves. Reach out for help. Go to your counselors. Go to your teachers. Go to tutoring. Whatever you need to do to get focused and get on track. And also for everyone, we have a website, 3doctors.com, that you can email us and ask us. Each one of us answer the emails, our own emails as well. So you can email us and ask us questions about your academics or any questions in general. And we will get right back to you, and hopefully some of our words of guidance and wisdom will help to fit the situation that you're in. But most immediately, you gotta go home and challenge yourself, and you have to write a note every day to yourself. Stay focused, stay determined, disciplined, dedicated, whatever your motto is. If you have to write that down in order to keep you going, do so. Remain active, and it will get you to where you want to go in life.
And I think your first step is coming here, and so I commend you for coming here.
Absolutely.
And we should talk afterwards.
I want to add a little bit as well. Just to touch on what Dr. Davis was saying about surrounding yourself with the friends. And as you're in the process of doing that, you also have to kind of look in yourself and find out, I'm sure you want things in the future. You want to have a level of stability where, you're driving as opposed to being driven by the world and life. You want to really have as much control over your life as you can. And you have to attach an urgency to that. Like, if you're sitting on the sideline, you're going to be sitting on the sideline for forever if you don't get in the game. You have to just jump in there and just start to figure it out, and with a level of urgency, because the quality of your future depends on you getting up and doing what you have to do. So use your environment, use, again, your friends and the resources that you have available to you to talk these things out and to really get it going, because you got to lay out your plan, Just like companies do strategic plans, you have to do a strategic plan for your life to get it together as best you can. As best you can using the signs and the information that you're getting. Again, as Dr. Hunt said, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to talk to you. We'll email you, however we need to do it to help be a resource to you. But we're wide open to help you out if you need it.
And I just